What is up, APUSH students? Today we are doing Unit 6 review, Part 1. We're looking at 1865 to 1898, 13% of the exam. Now, a little overview. We're starting back here with the Civil War. We're going to go through the Gilded Age with Standard Oil. You got all the trusts, all the monopolies. We have a couple panics here. We have some new technology from Thomas Edison, the light bulb. We have Carnegie Steel, all that good stuff. And we are going to end way over here with the Spanish-American War. So this unit is the Gilded Age and a little bit of expansion and imperialism. So like I said, the start date is the end of the Civil War. So there is some overlap between the last unit and this unit. Both contain Reconstruction, so keep that in mind when you guys pull out your unit papers on the AP test. These both cover Reconstruction. Now, we go from the end of the Civil War, Reconstruction, all that stuff, Gilded Age, all the way to the Spanish-American War. Obviously, this is a major turning point in U.S. history because this is when we become an empire, a proper empire with territory overseas. So that is very essential. Let's talk some politics in Unit 6. We're going to start off with Grant, who is a Republican. You remember he is the radical Reconstruction president, so he's going to send troops down to the South and force the South to follow the new amendments. Now, we have a string of Republicans. Hayes, you should know, the Compromise of 1877 we talked about in the last video, but this Republican guy, remember Lincoln is a Republican, he's going to say there's a contested election and he tells Congress, if you make me president, I will pull troops out of the South and end Reconstruction, so Congress does that. We have another Republican, Garfield, who's going to get assassinated. Here is a drawing of that. We have Chester Arthur, again, another Republican. And you should know the Pendleton Act of 1883 is going to be the end of the spoils system, so that is a big development in our political sphere here in America. Obviously, the spoils system never really goes away all the way, but this is going to start making presidents appoint people based on merit instead of just choosing their buddies. Remember, Jackson was the one who really put the spoils system in place. Now, we're going to change gears with Grover Cleveland, who's a Democrat. Remember, Democrats are Southerners at this time, so we have Grover Cleveland. Then we go to Benjamin Harrison, who's a Republican. Cleveland, he's the only president to run 2 terms non-consecutively. And then we're going to end here with William McKinley, another president who is assassinated. Unit 6, Foreign Policy and Wars. This is a major time for the U.S. military, again, because we are going to become an empire during this period, okay? Early on, you should know about the Pan-American Union, okay? And this is an agreement between the United States and Latin America that says that they are going to have trade and defense agreements between North and South America. So you can see a continuation of that Monroe Doctrine. Next, we have the Spanish-American War. You should know about yellow journalism, the sensationalism in media that leads to the war. You have the sinking of the USS Maine, which was published as a sabotage, but was actually probably a fire in the armor room there. You should know that we do win the Spanish-American War, which leads to a ton of nationalism. We get a new territory. We get the Philippine Islands over here. We get Guam. We kind of get Cuba, and we get Puerto Rico, okay? Know about the Rough Riders, led by Teddy Roosevelt. Know about the Buffalo Soldiers, those volunteer black troops who fought in the Spanish-American War. You should also know the Open Door Policy of 1899. If you guys remember from sophomore year, this time period, China is cut up by the major powers, Japan included. They're going to cut up China and basically exploit its resources. And America says, we want an open door, no tariffs, we want to be able to trade and get a piece of the pie of China. You also have the Boxer Rebellion, which is an anti-foreign Chinese rebellion. So these Chinese guys are going to say, hey, why are all these guys taking control of our resources and our country? And they rebel against their colonial overlords here. And that's important because the U.S. is going to send troops to help end that rebellion. Okay, so we see the U.S. extending its power out even more. This unit is going to end kind of with the Philippine-American War. We'll talk about that more with the next unit, but do know that the Philippines are going to try to get independence from the U.S., and America is going to put down that independence movement. Now, economy during Unit 6 is huge, okay? We have rising tensions between the rich captains of industry or robber barons, right? These extreme capitalists and the laborers, okay? You should know about the terms robber baron and captains of industry, these two different ideas of stealing from the poor, exploiting laborers, and the idea that these guys are hardworking immigrants who are living the American dream. Okay, so those two opposing ideas about rich people. Now, some examples. Standard Oil Trust, definitely know this. This is the Rockefeller monopoly on oil. You should know about Carnegie Steel and the Bessemer Steel process and how he has monopoly over steel in America. You should know about J.P. Morgan and the banking monopoly he has. Vanderbilt is eventually, he's going to start with steamships, but he will get a bunch of rail as well. And remember, we have the farmers who are pissed about the rail monopoly because they need to sell their crops, and Vanderbilt can charge them whatever he wants, and that's going to lead to populists, and we'll get to that in a second. Now, horizontal and vertical integration, these are types of monopolies you should know as well. If you remember, Carnegie's a good example of vertical integration, where he buys up all the iron mines and he buys up all the forges and he buys steel distribution plants, and he basically owns every step of the process to produce steel. Okay, so that is a vertical integration. Now, horizontal integration, Rockefeller's a good example of this. He is going to buy up all the oil companies, and so he's owning every single oil company, and he can set the prices at whatever he wants. Okay, so he owns all the production in one step, which is oil distribution. Now, laborers, okay, they are going to rebel against these robber barons and captains of industry in a few ways. You should know definitely that strikes are very common at this time, and the response to these strikes is what is interesting, okay? We had the Homestead Strike in 1892, and the important thing here is Frick is going to hire the Pinkerton Police Force, which is a private police force, to put down this massive strike. And that's important because it shows that the government is not siding with the strikers, right? The government allows Frick and a private police force to shoot at strikers. So that's the important thing. Pullman is also important. That's 1894, because again, the U.S. Army is going to put down a strike, which shows the government doesn't care about the laborer. The government cares about these robber barons and captains of industry. Now, there's a few reasons for that. Haymarket Riot is one of them. This is going to be a protest from laborers, and someone is going to throw a bomb, and it's going to start a riot. And Americans are going to see this as a huge setback for the labor movement, because laborers now look like extremists, communists, anarchists, right? So this puts a damper, it's a setback for that labor movement. You should also know we talked about the Knights of Labor in the last unit. They are really going to go kind of lose popularity at this time, and American Federation of Labor, or AFL, is going to take their place. Now, the reason is it's led by Samuel Gompers, by the way, but the reason the AFL can gain so much power is because they allow unskilled workers, skilled workers, blacks, whites, women, whatever, right? They allow anybody into that union, so they gain a lot of power. Now, obviously, most of those strikes are all going to occur in the North with factory workers, but in the West, we're also going to see some progressive reform happening, okay? We see the Farmers Alliance form, which is very similar to the Grange. Farmers Alliance is a little newer and a little smaller, but know about those two organizations that are fighting for equal shipping costs, and they're trying to get like the free silver movement passed, right? And they're trying to help out farmers, okay? You should also know about the Interstate Commerce Commission, the ICC. This is the first time that the federal government is going to step in and say that the feds regulate trade between states, okay? And this organization is going to say, for instance, if you are in like Kansas, right, you can't charge Nebraska more to ship through your state than you charge Colorado, okay? So that's the ICC stepping in and saying enough of screwing over the farmers, we're going to help them out by regulating trade between states. We also see the Sherman Antitrust Act, and this is to stop competitive pricing and things that allow monopolies to exist, okay? Unfortunately, it's not very effective, this Sherman Antitrust Act, and they're going to have to pass another antitrust act coming up, but we'll get into that in the next unit. You should also know about the Populist Party, or the People's Party. William Jennings Bryan is a big supporter of this Populist Party, and it's supported by many, many farmers, okay? This is like the farmers' party of the time. Again, looking for that silver currency and trying to regulate railroads, things like that. You can see in the 1892 election, a significant amount, 9% of the popular vote, goes to the populist candidate Weaver, so they do make a significant mark on that election. You should also know about the McKinley Tariff, which is a tax on imported agricultural goods. Now, obviously, if they're taxing wheat and stuff coming in from Europe over to America, more Americans are going to buy American-grown food, okay? So all these laws are helping, or organizations are helping the farmers, and it's kind of an early inkling of that progressive movement in our economy. We also have monetary policy. I kind of hinted at this that's happening at this time. There's something called the free silver movement, which is the idea that we should have a bimetallic system where gold and silver is our standard of currency, meaning that if it's just gold, we'll have less money in the economy. If it's also silver, we'll have, if it's gold and silver, we'll have a whole bunch of money in the economy. Now, you guys know that that will lead to inflation, which is not necessarily good, but if you're a farmer and you owe a lot of debt and then inflation skyrockets, your debt kind of goes down in a way, okay? Also, more people will have money to buy more grain, so the farmers are very supportive of this free silver movement. Now, like I said, supported by Western farmers, we will have a little bit of traction with this thing with the Bland-Allison Act of 1878, and the government is going to coin some silver. They're even going to expand it with the Sherman Silver Purchase Act like 12 years later, but by 1900, we are going to go full gold standard, okay? And that's going to end that bimetallic system. Here's some political cartoons of the time. You can see that gold is beating out silver, and you can see here, this is McKinley, and it says sound monetary policy. So that is that 1900 Act. Now, what do we have cooking for expansion in Unit 6? You should know about the Klondike Gold Rush, which is our last gold rush in American history. Gold will be discovered in the Yukon Territory up here in northeastern Canada, and a bunch of Americans and Canadians are going to move up northwest up here and into Alaska, so know about that Klondike Gold Rush, the last gold rush in the U.S. We also see the U.S. becoming an empire, okay? The U.S. is going to annex Hawaii in 1898, and essentially what happens is this guy named Dole, you can think of like the pineapple company Dole, he is in a U.S.-backed coup, basically. He's going to overthrow the Queen of Hawaii, and he's going to make himself the leader of Hawaii. He is going to kind of turn on the U.S., and but eventually they do come to a deal, and the U.S. is going to annex Hawaii. Now, the reason the U.S. does this is because we're entering the Spanish-American War, okay? And we need Pearl Harbor, that base, so that we have a better position to fight in the Philippines, which we talked about a little while ago. But obviously we win that Spanish-American War, we gain the Philippines, we get Guam, Puerto Rico, we get some Guano Islands, so we definitely expand quite a bit and we become a proper empire at this time. That's the end of Unit 6, Part 1. Next time we will talk about Native Americans, African Americans, all that good stuff. So I hope you guys are staying safe, stay indoors, and I will see you in the next one.